coming to you live here from Omaha, Nebraska. First and foremost, we are dry here at Moxie headquarters. I very so wish that I could say the same for many of our neighbors and family and friends. Unfortunately, we know people who have suffered a little to suffered a lot, and we are pulling together. It's an exciting time, I feel like, to be here in Nebraska and really seeing everyone come together to help one another out. So Moxie is raising money to donate to flood victims. I'll make sure to include the link in the comments below. But today I wanted to present on a topic that we hear all the time from recruiters and account managers, and we always tend to hear things like, well, if I could just get my candidate placed, if I could just, if the hospitals would just interview quicker, I would be able to secure more placements. I'd have more people working for me. I wouldn't lose, candidates to other organizations. But the truth of the matter is, and a very wise manager once told me that if a candidate isn't getting interviewed, the only person's fault it is yours. And I know it sounds harsh, but it's the truth. And you really need to take a look at a couple of things that you could be doing differently or better, and really assess how these interviews are happening and maybe why they are or are not happening for you. So the first thing I want you to consider is this candidate a true A candidate? Do they have a realistic expectation of travel? Do they have realistic locations that they want to go to, realistic pay expectations that they're looking for? Or are they closed on location and pay, which makes them more difficult to place and gives us less options as recruiters and as an agency to place them in, right? The second thing is, are the jobs you're pitching places where you can get interviews done? Or are you submitting them to these black hole hospitals and crossing your fingers that this time might be different for you? And we all have hospitals that work that way. We all have hospitals we know that if we submit candidates there, it could be 3 days, it could be 2 weeks, it could be never that we hear something, and we historically never get feedback from these hospitals. So why do we continue to pitch these hospitals to our candidates? And I know a lot of you are probably saying, well, if I don't pitch it, somebody else will. And you're absolutely right. I'm not suggesting by any means that you don't pitch those positions, but if you pitch those positions, you need to set those expectations for your travelers so that they know, the timeline that they could be looking at, and that it's important that they've got other options that they're looking at as well. And that leads me to my third question. Have you established a backup plan with your candidate? Meaning, okay, if this hospital doesn't interview in the next 24 to 48 hours, what are our next steps going to be? You should know when you're submitting a candidate to a facility what your chances are. And if you've never done business there before, if your organization has never done business there before, be upfront and honest with your candidate about that. Okay, this place is your top choice. Let's get you sent over. How long are we going to wait to hear back? How much time are we going to give this hospital to call before we move to the next hospital or the next several hospitals that we want to submit you for? Four, again, setting expectations. Have you talked with your candidate about current market conditions? Do they understand the competitive landscape and what they need to do to increase their chances of securing a position? It's important that they know that, so that they know that even if you're not hearing something, that you're still doing everything in your power to secure an interview for them. And finally, have you asked them where else they're being submitted with other companies, and asked for permission to do your job effectively? It's really important that we all know and we're all communicating openly and talking with one another, and it's important that we know where else our candidates are being submitted, and not because we want to steal that information or take it and market our candidates there instead, but because we need to know, are they opening up to other locations with another company, and we're just searching this black hole of abyss for positions that don't exist. And it's also important to know and to gauge your efforts for that candidate. If they're working with 5 other companies and they're submitted to 2 or 3 different positions with those 5 other organizations, well, then you better make sure that you're submitting them to a place where you're going to guarantee an interview in the next 24 to 48 hours, or spending a bunch of time on the computer running pay packages and looking for locations might not be the best use of your time. So, just to recap, is your candidate a true A candidate? Are you pitching jobs where you can get interviews done? Have you established a backup plan? Have you set expectations, and have you talked with them about where else they're being submitted and asked for permission for time for you to do your job? That's something that, I know can be a difficult conversation, but it's one worth having. When I knew that I was going to be submitting a candidate to a facility that could turn around interviews quickly, I asked for permission for that time. Okay, Sally, listen, this hospital interviews quickly. Is this your top choice? Okay, if it is, will you give me 48 hours to get the job done for you? I just want to make sure that if I push, that when they call you for an interview, you're not going to turn around and accept a position somewhere else. So ask for permission. It's completely okay. If you don't feel comfortable having those conversations, it means that you don't have a good enough relationship with your candidate, and you need to get back to the drawing board. When it comes down to it, wanting them to get a job and actually working to get them a job are 2 different things. Your goal might be to get someone a job, but without a strong plan in place to do it, it's just a wish. And you know what they say about wishes? If wishes were fishes, we'd be swimming in the riches. So get out there, ask some tough questions, build those relationships so that you're comfortable having those tough conversations, and make sure that you're asking and setting those expectations with your traveler too. Have a great day, everyone. Enjoy your Wednesday, and we will see you here next week. Take care.